The Everglades is often pictured as an endless swamp, but that image is too simple. It is a vast watershed, a chain of tropical wetland ecosystems, and one of the most unusual landscapes in North America. Located in southern Florida, it historically stretched from Lake Okeechobee southward to Florida Bay, covering roughly one-third of the lower peninsula. Before large-scale drainage changed the region, its marshes, prairies, sloughs, tree islands, swamps, mangrove forests, and coastal waters formed an interwoven system of about 4,000 square miles. What makes the Everglades remarkable is not just water or land, but the way water, land, climate, soil, plants, and animals interact across very subtle boundaries. It is not one habitat. It is a living mosaic. The Everglades began forming around 5,000 years ago, which makes it young in geological terms. Its existence depends on Florida's flatness. In many places, the land slopes so gently that water does not rush downhill like a normal river. Instead, fresh water spreads slowly across the surface, moving in a wide sheet from Lake Okeechobee toward the southern coast. This slow movement created a landscape where water depth, flow speed, soil type, and elevation differ by inches rather than mountains or valleys. Those small differences matter enormously. A slightly deeper channel can become a slough. A slightly higher patch of ground can support trees. Over time, the Everglades became a system shaped by tiny changes repeated across a huge area. The most famous description of the Everglades comes from writer and conservationist Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who called it a river of grass in 1947. That phrase captures the strange character of the region. It is river-like because water moves through it, but it does not look like a river with steep banks and a visible channel. Instead, the flow is broad, shallow, and often hidden among sawgrass. Sawgrass marshes became the enduring symbol of the Everglades because they reveal how plant life and flowing water are inseparable here. The grass grows in wet soils, slows the water, traps organic material, and helps build peat. In return, the water shapes where the sawgrass can survive. Sloughs are another core feature of the Everglades. A slough is a slightly deeper, lower pathway where water remains for longer periods and flows more continuously. These areas often look like open water trails cutting through marshland, but they are ecological highways. Fish, alligators, wading birds, turtles, and aquatic invertebrates rely on them, especially during dry seasons when shallower areas lose water. Sloughs also connect different parts of the system, allowing nutrients, seeds, and animals to move across the landscape. In the Everglades, a difference of only a few inches in elevation can decide whether a place is dry part of the year, flooded most of the year, or permanently wet. Not all Everglades ecosystems are open marsh. Scattered throughout the wetlands are pinelands and tropical hardwood hammocks. These tree communities grow on slightly elevated ground, sometimes only inches above surrounding peat, marl, or standing water. That tiny rise is enough to create a different world. Pinelands are shaped by fire and often include slash pine and an understory adapted to periodic burning. Hardwood hammocks, by contrast, are dense, shaded islands of tropical and subtropical trees. They provide shelter, nesting sites, fruit, and cover for many animals. To a human observer, the border between marsh and hammock may seem gradual or almost invisible. To wildlife, that subtle shift can mean food, refuge, or survival. Cypress trees add another dimension to the Everglades. The oldest and tallest cypresses are specially adapted to survive with their roots underwater for months at a time. In places like Big Cypress Swamp, some trees can be centuries old, with individuals around 500 years in age. Cypress communities may appear as broad swamps or as cypress domes, where taller trees grow near the center and smaller trees ring the edges. These domes often form in depressions that hold water longer than surrounding land. Cypress swamps create habitat for birds, amphibians, reptiles, insects, and mammals, while their roots and fallen leaves influence water chemistry and soil development. They are not separate from the Everglades, they are one of its essential faces. As freshwater continues southward, it eventually reaches the coastal transition zone, where it meets saltwater from the Gulf of Mexico and Florida Bay. This meeting place supports mangrove forests, one of the most important ecosystems in the Everglades. Mangroves are trees that tolerate salt, shifting tides, soft mud, and low oxygen soils. Their tangled roots trap sediment, buffer coastlines, and create sheltered habitat. Young fish use mangrove roots as nurseries. Birds nest and feed among their branches. Crabs, shrimp, mollusks, and many other invertebrates depend on the structure they provide. The mangrove zone shows that the Everglades is not just inland freshwater marsh. It is also a coastal system where freshwater and saltwater constantly negotiate. Florida Bay is also considered part of the Everglades because it is shaped by the freshwater that flows out of the wetlands. The bay's seagrass beds and aquatic life depend on the balance between freshwater discharge and salty marine water. If too much freshwater is withheld, salinity can rise and stress organisms adapted to a narrower range. If water arrives at the wrong time or in the wrong amount, the bay can change in ways that ripple through the food web. Seagrasses provide habitat and feeding grounds for fish, crustaceans, manatees, and many other species. In this sense, the Everglades does not end at the shoreline. Its ecological influence extends into the shallow marine environment. The movement of water through the Everglades is influenced by broader geographic features. Areas such as the Western Flatwoods, Eastern Flatwoods, and Atlantic coastal ridge help control drainage patterns by affecting where water can spread, slow, or be redirected. Because the region is so flat, these features do not need to be dramatic to matter. A ridge, a low plain, or a slight change in soil can shape the path of water across many miles. This is why the Everglades should be understood as a watershed, not just a park or a swamp. Its ecosystems are tied together by hydrology. Change the water's path, timing, depth, or duration, and the entire ecological arrangement begins to shift. Fire is one of the forces that shapes the Everglades, even though water is the feature most people notice first. In seasonally dry areas, periodic fires can prevent woody vegetation from taking over marshes and pinelands. Many plants in the region are adapted to survive, recover from, or even depend on fire. At the same time, fire behaves differently depending on water levels. When soils are wet, fire may burn surface vegetation without deeply damaging peat. When conditions are too dry, fire can burn into the organic soil itself, altering elevation and habitat. The Everglades is therefore shaped by a balance between wet and dry cycles, with fire acting as both a renewing and potentially destructive force. Storms and climate also play formative roles. Tropical storms and hurricanes can push saltwater inland, break branches, open forest canopies, redistribute sediment, and reshape coastal wetlands. Heavy rainfall can refill sloughs and marshes, while drought can concentrate fish and wildlife into deeper refuges. These pulses are not interruptions to the Everglades, they are part of its natural rhythm. The system has developed under changing water levels, seasonal rainfall, fire, and storm disturbance. That is why scientists often describe Everglades ecosystems as both resilient and fragile. They are resilient because they can recover from natural fluctuations. They are fragile because changes in timing, depth, and flow can quickly disrupt the relationships that species depend on. The key lesson of the Everglades is connection. Sawgrass marshes, sloughs, cypress swamps, hardwood hammocks, pinelands, mangroves, and seagrass beds may look like separate habitats, but they are linked by water moving slowly across southern Florida. Minor changes in water level can affect nesting birds, fish nurseries, tree survival, soil formation, and salinity in Florida Bay. A few inches can decide whether a plant community thrives or disappears. The Everglades is singular and plural at the same time, one watershed made of many ecosystems. Its geography explains its ecology, and its ecology reveals how powerful subtle landscapes can be. To understand the Everglades is to see a river that flows through grass, trees, mud, coast, and sea. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.